I'm sure most of you know that today is Ash Wednesday, which marks the beginning of Lent. Lent being that period of preparation between now and Easter in which we look ahead to the Easter story. But so it's a preparation both for the cross and for the resurrection. But what we need to remember, of course, is that we can't get to the resurrection by cutting the corner and avoiding death. And I want to focus a little bit about that today. Whilst at Christmas we remember the story of God putting on flesh and entering the world through blood and water, as all of us must do, what the Lenten journey reminds us is that our physical journey as human beings has to end with death. Well, almost. Because as I've said, of course, round the corner from that is the resurrection. But the death always has to come first. Human beings find it very hard to acknowledge the reality of death. We can put a huge amount of effort and energy into trying to delay it or avoid it or hope it might not come. But of course, it always does. And the harshness of the coronavirus pandemic has brought us face to face, I think, in a way more than we've ever had to face before. And the pain of that has been immense, and let us not deny that. Let us not deny the pain of having had to cope with so much death over this last year, so much more than we ordinarily would have to cope with. But let's think too of the Lenten story, which tells us something different. It ends as all human stories must, with death. But then it goes on and it shows us something unexpected. See, while we're used to the typical hero's story, you think of some of those fantasy films you might have watched, or Disney films, and all of those films in which the hero always seems to manage to escape death. Jesus, the hero of our story, shows us something very different. Here is a hero who really could, if he chose, escape the fate of death. And yet what did he do? He chose to submit to his full humanity and to die. But as he did that, what happened? As he embraced his death, that was when the resurrection and transformation then happened. You see, transformation came from the embracing of the ashes of death, not from escaping it. And this walking the path of death, and alongside that the path of pain, of all suffering, is not just what Jesus came to do himself. It's the way of life that he came to show us. It was like he was saying to us, look at me, this is the way of life for you all. He was showing us, as Richard Rohr says, he was saying it is about surrender, it is about gratitude, it is about becoming nothing, because when we are nothing, we are in a fine position to receive everything from God. You see, what we learn from the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus is that the mystery of transformation occurs when we embrace pain and suffering and death. Transformation requires that we walk into and through something, not around it. Richard Rohr again said, we try to change events in order to avoid changing ourselves. We must learn to stay with the pain of life, without answers, without conclusions, and some days without meaning. That is the path, the perilous, dark path of true prayer. Staying with the pain. You see, what Jesus' way shows us is that transformation ultimately comes when we enter into our pain rather than trying to escape it. And so today, as we enter into this time of Lent together, I invite you not to spend Lent trying to run away from the pain and suffering of the world. I hope many of you will be joining us for our online Lent course, which begins tonight. And if you don't know details of that, do email me and I'll send them through. But in that course, we'll be journeying week by week together as we explore what it really means to enter into the pain and suffering of our world as Jesus himself did. Because you see, Jesus didn't embrace pain, suffering and death as a path to transformation just for the sake of it. He did it to show us that it is our journey too. It seems, Richard Rohr would say, that Christians have been worshipping Jesus' journey instead of doing his journey. It's not just about worshipping Christ for what he did, it's about joining in with him in the journey. And so let's use this Lent as an opportunity to do the journey shown by Jesus, a journey that will involve lament. But we're already on a journey of lament, are we not? We have been all the way through this coronavirus. So let's join in this journey that will involve lament, a journey that will involve repentance, but a journey too that if we truly walk it, will lead us and our life into new light and new life. Because don't forget that the end of the Easter journey is resurrection. But we have to go through the death to get there. I hope you'll join us this Lent as we embrace together what it means to know and to feel and to walk through both our suffering and that of the world. And as we do that, to then also experience what it really means to be transformed by God and to know new life.